Hi, I'm Callie and welcome to Kapowski Reads. And I am ridiculously excited about this reading vlog because I am reading some of my most anticipated reads of the year. Back in January, I did a little video, which I will link in the description for anybody who is interested, of my most anticipated releases of the first half of 2024. Books that I am planning to read in this vlog are The Poisons We Drink by Bethany Baptiste, Where Sleeping Girls Lie by Farida Abike Amedi, and Lore of the Wilds by Analeigh Sbrana. This is the smallest of the books and I think it's like 300 odd pages, with the other two being over 500. Because these books are new, they are all currently within the month of their release. This is going to be spoiler free. I'm not going to be giving any spoilers. I don't want to ruin any of these books for anybody. I want to love them myself and I want other people to get the chance to enjoy them unspoiled by me. I don't want to be the reason somebody doesn't get that gasp moment. So, book I'm reading first is The Poisons We Drink. This is also the book that I received first. And I think that's the order I'm going to read them in. Because why? Why not? I am already halfway through this book and I'm loving it. This book is about a young woman called Venus. She is a potion brewer and she makes illegal love potions in order to support her family. She's very talented at it and it keeps them afloat. When her mother is killed, she is given the opportunity to get revenge on the person who killed her mother in exchange for making a deal with the Grand Witcher, who is like the person in charge of the coven. And that potion she has to brew is going to basically allow the Grand Witcher to take control of these senators in DC. They are going to be voting on a piece of legislation that could put every single Witcher in danger. So a Witcher is basically somebody with magical powers. So Venus is a Witcher, which is basically a person with magical powers, and they live in a world where there are people who do not have magic. And oh, can you imagine how charming those people are? Not all of them, but a lot of them are awful. And I hate them, but you're supposed to hate them because they're awful. So instantly, I know I'm rooting for Venus. When I was reading the blurb of this book, I thought, oh, somebody's going to want to take control of these senators. Oh, you know, could this be bad? And I'm like, probably not. Probably not worse than the senators voting the way that they want to vote. When I started reading this book, I will read the dedication to you, because this dedication made me realise that I want to be friends with this author. And I kind of thought, based on the dedication alone, I was going to enjoy the book. I dedicate this book to all my haters. I only got this far out of spite. I love a somewhat, I was going to say petty dedication, but I love a dedication that makes you go, I would like to know the backstory here. And this one does. I so far am loving Venus. I love her relationship with her family. We have her sister, her younger sister. We have her cousin. There's an ex who's maybe a friend, maybe more. And we've got extended family, uncle, aunt. Everybody feels very well fleshed out and I am rooting for her to win, even though I cannot fathom how she's going to achieve what she has to achieve. There is a cat in this book who is about 150 years old that is their familiar, and I love him. I love him. In addition to all of the goings on with Venus having to, well, grieve. She's grieving. She is living in an environment where there is a lot of hostility towards witchers, of which she is one. Her neighbor's awful, like just ugh. And like there's police brutality towards the witchers. In addition to all of that, she has to go and deal with this potion stuff, which has a defined timeline, and her ex is back on the scene. But in addition to all of that, she has something inside of her like a devil on her shoulder kind of entity, and it talks to her and puts kind of suggestions towards her of chaos. And this, I want to know more about this. It's called It, and it's kind of like almost like a possession type scenario, but it reminds me a little bit of the nightmare in One Dark Window, which I really loved. The only similarities really being there's a sarcastic evil within, and that is what I'm getting from this. I want to go and finish this because I love it, and it's completely unrelated to what is inside the book, but the physical copy is one of the really, you know when you get a nice paperback that's already like a little bit floppy, but not too floppy, but like you don't have to like worry about cracking the spine, even though I don't overly worry about cracking spines because it just means the book's loved. If it's your own book, you can make your own choices with your own books. I will report back when I have finished this book and then let you know if I continue to love it and let you know what I'm going to read next and tell you what it's about. I'll be back. I have now finished reading The Poisons We Drink, and I'm going to try my very, very best to give you my final thoughts and feelings without bursting into tears. However, I make no promises. I am not the master of my own tear ducts. They're in charge of themselves. So I might cry, but I'll try not to. I loved this book entirely. If I could give more than 5 stars, like I would. I adored this book. There were so many characters, but each and every character was, first of all, interesting, but they were all distinct. They had their own motivations and goals, and it was really easy to keep the characters separate in my mind. I wasn't getting anyone. So slight filming pause there because we just got a knock at the door and somebody has sent me flowers, and it wasn't my boyfriend and it wasn't me. So I'm very intrigued to find out who that was. The book. So yes, the characters were just so, they felt distinct, and I loved each and every one. And I feel like each character in this book could have had their own like storyline, which I think is so important when you have a lot of characters. Everyone was necessary. Everyone was valuable to the story. The second half of this book was just so utterly exciting. This is a hefty book. It's over 500 pages, and at no point did I find myself having a look, you know, flicking to see how many pages left of my chapter, how many pages left of the book. At no point did I do that because I wanted to read this. I wanted to pick this up. I was grudging every moment that I couldn't be reading because I have obligations such as work and sleep and, you know, real life things. I never found my attention swaying, not at all. I was so invested and I loved every moment of this. I enjoyed the high risks. The stakes were so high. The danger was made super clear right from the beginning, and you knew what the risks were for failure. I was genuinely tense because I did not know what direction this book was going in. I also didn't know if this was a standalone or part of a series, so I didn't know, was I gonna get like a resolution? Was something gonna happen? Was there gonna be a cliffhanger? There were multiple twists that genuinely made me gasp. They made me run to the bottom of the stairs to yell up to my partner who was doing something else, because when I read a book, we read a book. He had to know everything that was happening. I kept him very, very up to date because I had to share the goings on. I was so excited. Some of the twists and the grand reveals I found to be truly shocking because I didn't see them coming. Even though there were some little moments that were peppered here and there, they were hidden amongst other things that I just didn't notice them. I thought they were just throwaway comments, but in a book, nothing's a throwaway comment. Love a little clue set among red herrings. The family relationships in this book, I'm not gonna cry. Maybe I am. I'm gonna try not to. The family relationships in this book are what made it so special for me. I love reading books with sisters. Today is the anniversary of my sister's death, which is possibly why I have received flowers, and I am not gonna cry. I will, just not on my camera. And I saw so much of my sister in Venus. Like, at that age, I saw their dynamic was so similar to ours, and it gave me like chicken soup for the soul. It was just so heartwarming for me to see that and, well, to read it. There were multiple sibling relationships in this book that I just loved seeing the variety of the dynamics. They were so varied but also so similar as well, and there was just so much love. You could just feel it. The characters, I genuinely was like, you would go to battle for that person, and I just, you could feel it. I really respected the way that grief was handled in this book. I think it handled it in such a great way to see how the different people reacted. I previously have been cursed. Every time I read a 5-star book, I am cursed with either a DNF or a 1-star. I don't want that to happen. Today, on the day of my dead sister's anniversary, no, I will not have a DNF or a 1-star. So I am going to finish another book that I have on the go that isn't for a vlog, a sacrificial lamb, if you will, and I am going to maybe like watch a film or something, cleanse my brain palette before I start my next book. And hopefully the curse will not come back. I have had like a brain cleanse. I watched a film. I watched Jennifer's Body, which is one of my favourite films, and I didn't realise that this film was not as popular as I thought it was. I was chatting to a friend who had never seen it, and I was like, well, I've seen it upwards of 20 times. How have you never seen it? And long story short, and an unofficial poll with some of my friends, I realised that it just seems like the people I was friends with at the time where this film came out all really liked it. So we'd all seen it a lot. But it perhaps wasn't the cinematic darling that I remembered it being. But I still loved it. And if you haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. It was the perfect way, I think, maybe, to go from reading one book to the next, just to freshen my palette and get myself ready to enjoy something new. And that something new is Lore of the Wilds by Analeigh Sbrana. I am over halfway through. I am about 200 pages into a 350-ish page book, and I am having a good time so far. This is a I think you could tell it was fantasy. We've got a forest, we've got a magical book, we've got a handsome man with some horns, we've got another handsome man, we've got a beautiful main character. Fantasy. This book is about Lore, who is the main character here. She lives in a world that's basically, her town is kind of imprisoned within the forest. They can't leave. They are ruled over by fae who are not overly kind to them at all. They live in a very sort of impoverished town where they are severely lacking in resources. They're not allowed to really have any trade outside of their town, and they're struggling. And Lore, the main character, makes a deal with a fae lord that in exchange for helping her town, she will help him because he wants something from this magical library that is completely blocked off to all fae. They cannot go in. I'm not quite sure what will happen if they do. It won't be good. So he needs Lore to go into the library and find these books, scrolls, documents that he wants to get his little mitts onto. And so far in the book, Lore has gone to the palace. She has met, the fae are horrible generally. You know, I would say a good 98% of the ones we've met so far are ghastly and have a very interesting opinion regarding humans. So some of the Fae are quite violent towards them, others kind of fear them, and it kind of feels like nobody has an agreement regarding what humans can and can't do. They're almost like part cautionary tale and then part treat them like garbage, which is interesting. I really like the library where Lore has been working, trying to find these tomes for the Fae Lord. I really love the library. I am a sucker for a book that includes books or includes libraries, bookshops, anything like that. So I'm really loving the library. There's a little fox who is there too, and I love the fox. And there are some parts of the library that are dark and, you know, no light can touch them, and I really want to know what is going on with those bits of the library. There is a romance on the horizon with Archer, who is our handsome chap here with the horns. He is a Fae that is in the guard, and he's kind of been tasked with looking after Lore and making sure that she only does what she is told to do, doesn't speak to anybody, doesn't go out, just goes to the library, looks for things, goes to sleep. That's her life. And they've kind of got a wee bit of almost like an insta love going on. It kind of went from nothing to like super duper intense, and I kind of want to know a little bit of the motivation here for, especially for Asher. I know what Lore is thinking, but I don't really know what Asher is thinking or any of his backstory or anything, so I'd really like to know a little bit more about why he is a Fae that is kind of cool with a human existing when so many of them are not. They are currently on a bit of a quest, which I'm intrigued by. The book is a little bit jumpy when transitioning from sort of one location to the next, so I kind of found myself a little like, wait, how did we get here? And the blurb says that there are 2 love interests and there are 2 handsome chaps here for Lore to enjoy. But so far I've only really met Asher. I'm not 100% sure who this handsome chap is in the book. We've met a few other Fae, but I'm not sure which one he's meant to be yet. Or if he is meant to be on any of those, maybe we'll meet another guy. I am having a good time with this book in that I am enjoying it. I'm really enjoying the world building, and I want to know what's going to happen next. I'm not loving it as much as I loved my previous book, but I am enjoying it. I don't know if it's going to be, I don't think it's going to be a 5-star book, because that's something that I usually feel like in my heart. And definitely by this point in a book, I'm here, I would expect to, if it's a 5-star, I'd expect to know by this point, but it could be a 4, I don't know. Got 150 or so pages left to find out, but I'm looking forward to finding out what's going to happen, and I'm intrigued. I'm keen to continue. I have now finished Lore of the Wilds, and I think I'm giving it 3 stars. I think. I want to give it 2.5, but Goodreads makes me pick solid stars only, so I think I'm going to round up, but I reserve the right to change that decision. In the second half of this book, we kind of took a turn. I was hoping for more of this cursed library and more of the castle, and I didn't get that. I got a very fractured sort of story. There felt like there were some missing chapters, if that makes sense. Lore jumped from like location to different location, time lapses, and it was just almost as if nothing happened during that time. Suddenly she would be in this other place, and there was no sort of explanation about, well, how did she get there? What is there? How did you find out where that place was? I had some questions that were left unanswered. We did find out who this other handsome chap was, And I actually didn't notice really that he was the other love interest, because I feel like in most love triangle storylines, it's kind of shown who the players are, and I didn't feel like there was romance a bubbling until, you know, quite near the end. So I don't know if I would necessarily say this was a good representation of a love triangle. I didn't really see it. The twist, there was of course there's a twist. Of course there's a twist. The twist at the end of this I really enjoyed. I did not see it coming, and it did feel like a grand reveal. So I very much enjoyed that, the way that it made other parts of the book make sense. I'm being cryptic because if you want to read this, I encourage you to do so, and I don't want to ruin it for you. But there were some moments in the first half that I thought, that's interesting, but the reveal makes things make a little bit more sense. This is a duology, and while I don't think, were I not on a book buying ban of course, that I would pre-order a book too, if I were to see it in a library, yes, I would pick it up, but I wouldn't seek it out. But I did have a lot of questions left over from this book that I think could probably be addressed in book two. I actually thought this book was young adult. This book is not young adult. So I was reading it just thinking some of the characters felt a lot younger than they were. And I was like, that's so that it appeals to a younger audience. And the dialogue, I felt at times, was a bit juvenile for a character who was 21, grew up in a world where you kind of were forced to grow up, take on adult responsibilities from quite a young age. I did expect her to be a bit older than her years because she had to be, but I actually felt that her maturity level actually felt a lot younger. I would say that some of the dialogue felt more like she was 14. But again, because I thought it was young adult, I was like, that's fine. Like, that makes it, you know, maybe feel a bit more accessible to the target audience, of which I didn't think I was. And then I got to the scene, and then I realized, no, this is not young adult, because you don't have graphic moments like that in a young adult book. And then I was like, well, my feelings towards the characters and the dialogue now feel like they have to change, because I actually am closer to the target audience than I thought I was. This might be considered new adult, which is like early 20s, but I know that me in my early 20s would have thought that these characters felt a lot younger. The romantic scene in this book used some very choice words that made me want to book. It just, the choices of words in the romantic scenes just, I just, no. If you follow me on Instagram and saw me post anything about word choices for romantic scenes, it was this book I was talking about. I love the ideas this author had, so I feel like I'm not put off of reading more of their books. I just didn't like this as much as I had hoped I was going to, and I was left feeling a little underwhelmed. And I feel really bad saying that, because the author seems really nice and was really excited about the book, and they're a brand new author, and you know, I don't want to poo-poo anybody's dreams, but this wasn't for me. The next book I'm going to be reading is Where Sleeping Girls Lie by Farida BK Ayamedi, and I'm excited. time for book 3 of my anticipated reads, my final one for this video, Where Sleeping Girls Lie by Farida Abiki Ayomede. This book is about Shadi, who has found herself at the very prestigious Alfred Nobel Academy. This is a prestigious boarding school. This is a fancy boarding school in England, and her roommate disappears on night 1. Roommate, bye! And suddenly everybody's a bit like, who is this new girl Shadi? Because her roommate Elizabeth has gone missing, and what's going on? Where is she? Does this new girl know something? I saw the trigger warning list at the beginning of this book, so I got myself all prepared. Just prepped and ready. I got some sushi from Marks and Spencer's, fancy, because it's Marks and Spencer's. Our Marks and Spencer's has a sushi bar now, which feels really nice. It's delicious, so I like it. And I decided to watch my comfort film to both kind of cleanse my palate, my brain palate, and get me ready to enjoy a new book, but also to kind of get me feeling comforted and ready to embark on what might be a difficult at times read. And the comfort film I watched is Frances Ha. It is one of my favourite films. It's just, you know when you watch a film and you're like, that got me at that point in my life when I watched it? That's what that film is for me. I absolutely love it. What I'm also loving is this book. I just, you know when you start reading a book and you know you're gonna love it. That is what I've been getting from this book. And my thoughts and feelings so far are that I love it. The main character, Shadi, is recently orphaned and she's hiding something. I don't know what she's hiding, but she's hiding something. I don't know if I trust Shadi. There's something going on and I want to know because I think it's relevant to the book and I'm nosy. But I don't think it's just Shadi who's hiding something. There are a lot of people that are suspicious. I don't think I trust anybody at this school. I am loving the Insta friendship that seems to have just taken place between Shadi and Basil. Basil is charming, loves a jammy dodger, and now I want to eat jammy dodgers. He's best friends with Elizabeth and has kind of taken Shadi in, you know, my best friend's roommate is my best friend kind of thing. They've formed this beautiful connection and I'm really loving it, and I really hope that I can trust Basil and I really hope I can trust Shadi. There are some romantic rumblings and I don't know if it's just me, if I'm maybe reading too much into some moments, some gazes, some gifting of Mars bars, but I'm rooting for them and I hope that develops more as the book continues. There have been some, I would say, pop culture nods that I just absolutely loved, and I know that when I finish this and I reread this again, I am gonna just tab the little pop culture references. So there have mainly been some kind of nods towards Mean Girls, which I am a millennial woman. I love Mean Girls. I love it. I haven't watched it for ages. I need to rewatch it now because I absolutely adored it. The little sort of recreations of certain bits, it is just giving me that little something extra. I'm loving the setting in this prestigious school, which kind of feels like its own little town. In fact, there's a map of the school. Like, it's massive with all of the dormitories and all of the classroom buildings. I'm really liking the setting, and it does feel like sometimes with boarding school books I feel like it's hard to place them when they're in their sort of little micro environment, but this definitely does feel like it takes place in England. There have been there's some slang words, some colloquialisms and some references to EastEnders that I'm definitely like, yep, you're in England. With Shadi and Basil looking into the mysterious disappearance of Elizabeth, they seem to have unravelled a whole huge mystery. It has grown arms and legs and tails and everything. And there's a lot of trouble ahead. And I feel like there's also so much danger, like the situations that they're gonna be in. The situations that they're getting into seem to be growing and growing in danger that I'm genuinely feeling quite worried for the characters. None of the teachers seem to be listening to the students. They're just not. So it does feel like Shadi and Basil are on their own, and that just makes it feel more tense. I'm genuinely so concerned for their safety. I'm hoping they're going to make it through the last half of this book, but I don't know. I am whizzing through this book and I want to read it. It's so thrilling. I'm emotionally invested in these characters. I'm gonna finish filming this now because I want to go back and read my book. I'll come back with final thoughts and feelings in a wee moment. Well, not in a wee moment. It'll be a wee moment in the video, but like in real life, it'll probably be tomorrow. I'll be back. I have now finished my final book, Where Sleeping Girls Lie, and I loved it. I loved it. This is the second book I've read by this author, and the second 5-star that I have given them. And my rules for when I find a new favourite author are basically, once I give an author 3 5-star ratings, they're pretty much solidified in my council of favourite authors. And so I can see Farida, Abiki, Ayomede finding themselves having a chair at the imaginary table where my council of favourite authors hang out in my mind. So I'm delighted about that. This book took a turn. The second half just escalated. And the first half was already so tense. So the second half, even more tension. And I found myself not wanting to put it down. But, you know, I have to live and things. But I didn't want to put it down. I wanted to pick it up and I wanted to spend my time reading this. So many extra secrets were revealed. So many theories that I hadn't even considered came into play. And it really was just thrilling. It was utterly thrilling to read. I was thrilled. I did go back and edit my initial thoughts on this book because I mentioned something that turns out is linked to a spoiler. So the update for the first half of this book, there might be some slightly jumpier than usual editing. It is usually quite jumpy because I've taken some little hints to spoilers out, because this is a spoiler-free zone. We don't ruin new releases for people. I continued to love the characters in this book. I saw more sides to Shadi and Basil. Their friendship just continued to grow and was adorable. And I got to know Persephone a little bit more. I didn't really get to know her so much in the first half. In the second half, loved her. This trio on paper just should not work, but they did for some reason. They just did. And it felt like just a really nice, supportive trio. I really enjoyed the friendship element of this story. Shadi's bravery just knew no bounds. I think like if I was in her situation, I just feel like I would be such a coward, such a scaredy cat. I wouldn't be getting myself into all of these dangerous situations because I am scared. But knowing her motivations, I think, you know, maybe things would be different, because maybe she was brave because of the reasons she had to do things. And I suppose people act differently when they have different motivations. So I don't know. I don't know if I would be as brave as her. I like to think that maybe I would, but I don't know. I think I'd probably be a little bit more like Basil, just chilling with the guinea pig. This book kept me on my tippy toes. I just didn't know who I could trust. Right up until the end, I was still a little uncertain of who was I don't want to say goody and who was a baddie, because there were a lot of sort of like morally grey moments, but I didn't know who I could trust. I didn't even know, reading this book, in the second half, if I could trust Shadi, let alone myself, to read it. It was just so tense. The grand reveals got me. I didn't see them coming. I thought the book was going in a different direction, a direction I was very excited about, but it went in a different way, and I actually really liked the way that it did go. It was unexpected for me, but I loved the direction it took, and I had the best time reading this. Even though there were some difficult subject matters in this, please do read the trigger warnings at the beginning, but I thought this book was just spectacular. The vibes of this book were creepy, so creepy. I think this would be a perfect autumnal read because it's so dark and set in the UK where the weather is dreary. It's currently quite stormy outside. Happy April. This was exactly the kind of book I needed to read right now and wanted to read. I had a great time. Highly recommend. So I have now finished my 3. That's not how I show books off. My 3 books. I ended up having a total of 12 stars, which is fantastic. I had 2 5-star reads with The Poisons We Drink by Bethany Baptiste, Where Sleeping Girls Lie by Farida Abiki Ayamede. And I did decide, I feel really bad about this, I did decide to bring down the rating for Lore of the Wilds by Analeigh Sbrana. I had originally given it, well, I did give it 2.5 and I rounded it up on Goodreads, but I slept on it and I reconsidered and I ended up rounding it down on Goodreads to a 2 because I feel in good faith I couldn't give it a 3 because I didn't feel like it was a 3, and I think my ratings are mainly based on feelings. So I am considering this to be an overwhelming success. I feel like I'm back on track with my anticipated reads with some more 5 stars. I feel like me of the past really made some good choices. I am super excited for the upcoming releases that I've got. I don't even know what I've still got to come. Now I'm going to bask in the glory of finding 2 new favourite books. Good times. If you've read any of these new releases, let me know. And if you're thinking of reading any of them, do. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.